Timothy and my mother-in-law Diana, both smirking, pulled out a piece of paper. It said insane things like the house would be left to Timothy and that no one would complain later, and had Mom's signature on it. They must have tricked her into signing it. This is completely invalid. This is outright fraud. No, I wrote it. Mom admitted it so easily. Before I knew it, we were kicked out of the house, along with a filled-out divorce application. Timothy was looking at me expectantly. Does he really think I'm going to beg him? No way I'm looking back. Just you wait and see. Next to me, gritting my teeth, Mom said, "You're happy now, aren't you?" My name is Samantha. I'm 53, a part-time worker and a housewife. Lately, my biggest worry has been my terrible hand eczema. Timothy is an office worker. We live with my parents in my childhood home. We don't have kids. I have a more serious concern than my hand eczema. Mom might have dementia. I say might because she hasn't been officially diagnosed by a medical professional, but I'm almost certain. Her memory and judgment have weakened. She forgets things easily, even forgetting that she forgot them. Sometimes, she becomes like a different person and does unpredictable things. Some days it happens frequently, while other days are normal. She used to work hard and be very attentive. It seems it gradually worsened ever since she hurt her knee and started staying at home longer. Her knee is better now, but I'm worried, so I don't want her going out alone. Dad and I take turns looking after Mom. When I'm working my part-time job, Dad is at home, so he can handle anything that comes up. I worry about her condition getting worse and the fact that Timothy doesn't want to help at all. I need to figure out what to do. Then, Dad got seriously ill and had to be hospitalized for a long time. I couldn't leave Mom alone, but I also couldn't keep taking time off work. When I consulted Timothy, he said, "Aren't you worrying too much?" He sounded like it was someone else's problem. She might leave the stove on or get lost. You're exaggerating. What if something happens? There's no end if you keep thinking like that. Timothy seemed clearly annoyed. Even though they're my parents, he's been living with Mom for years, shouldn't he be more considerate? The reason we live together is because Timothy's income is too low for us to afford our own place. Even animals show gratitude, but this man seems to have no concept of it at all. Why don't you quit your job and take care of her? It's not that easy. I've been at my part-time job for years and don't want to quit. I have a decent income. Can you really support us if I quit? I wanted to ask. If we use caregiving services and you help out a little, we can continue our lives as they are. What? Me? Just occasionally. She's your mom. Yes, but I have nothing to do with this. Handle it yourself. How could you say that? Is her condition really bad enough to need caregiving services? We're going to see a doctor to find out. You're always complaining about your hands and how standing all day at your salon job is hard. Just quit already. Timothy clicked his tongue and walked away quickly. What's his problem? That's so cruel. Sure, my hands are bad, but I never said I wanted to quit. Him bad-mouthing my job made me really mad. I should have known this day would come. I have nothing to do with this. That's impossible. We're family. If your mother was in the same situation, would you want me to ignore her? God, I'm so angry. But it can't be helped. I'm the one with the flexibility since I work part-time. Also, although I think it's still a ways off, if it comes to helping with changing clothes or bathing, Mom would hate it. At this age, if I quit being a hairdresser, I won't be able to return to the field. Trends and products change rapidly, and I wouldn't be able to keep up. I even have regular clients. No, there are plenty of hairdressers, but I'm the only one who can take care of Mom. Moping won't help anything. I have to look forward. Once Dad is discharged, things will go back to normal. First, I'll take Mom to the hospital, have a proper discussion with Timothy, and arrange for care services, preparing for the future. I really don't want to quit my job. I'll ask if I can take some time off. A few days after I made that decision, Dad's condition suddenly worsened while he was in the hospital, and he passed away. What a terrible thing. When a family member dies, there's no time to mourn. Besides arranging the funeral, there are countless procedures to handle one after another. Mom was very sad. Sometimes she would stare off like a child, or suddenly cry, unable to control her emotions. After putting on her funeral attire, she pulled herself together like magic and handled the role of funeral organizer admirably. I was so focused on supporting Mom that I couldn't afford to let my guard down. Thus, we saw Dad off in no time. Physically and emotionally exhausted, Mom and I finally felt the loneliness of Dad not being there. He was quiet but kind. Even knowing he won't come back, I couldn't bring myself to clear away his recliner, his cup, his reading glasses, or the paperback book he was halfway through. Neither Mom nor I could do it. Then, Timothy came back with his in-laws. Come to think of it, he said this morning that he would bring them over to help tidy up the house. I appreciate them coming all this way to help, but I'm not ready for that yet. Sorry, but I'll have to decline and just offer them some coffee before they leave. Mom seems extremely tired, so she's napping. I'll leave her be. I show the in-laws to the room next to the entrance and prepare coffee. Timothy starts. Serve tea instead of coffee. And prepare some sweets too. Bossing me around. I suddenly thought, aren't they your parents? Why don't you do it yourself? But there's no use holding on to a grudge. I decided to live positively. Let's hire a company to dispose of the big items all at once. Yeah, that sounds good. Diana and Timothy are talking like that. I wish they wouldn't make decisions without consulting me. We don't need to clean up just yet. What? Diana looks surprised. I mean, we'll do it after we've calmed down a bit. What? Mom and I are still processing our emotions. When I said that, Diana tilted her head and said, What are you talking about? That's a problem. I don't understand why Diana is having an issue with this. I look at Timothy, but he avoids my gaze. We already gave this house to our son and his wife. Renovations are starting soon, so what are we supposed to do? I'm sorry, but I don't understand what you're saying. We're living here with my parents starting today. Timothy suddenly said. What are you talking about? It's already decided. What? This is my family home. I'm confused, and Timothy won't meet my eyes. Samantha, didn't you hear? Even Diana talks like it's the most natural thing in the world, making my head spin. I'm sure I told you. Maybe you forgot because of the busy funeral arrangements. Timothy lies calmly. There's no way I could have missed such an important discussion, no matter how busy I was. I don't know what you're talking about, and I absolutely don't agree. You don't need to approve. It's already done. What do you mean? I've already discussed it with Rachel. A chill ran down my spine. When did this happen? Could they really have done this while Mom was just spacing out? This can't be allowed. I was stunned. Diana spoke to Timothy. Hey, we can't take care of a jobless moocher and a senile old person, right? Timothy nodded in agreement. That's right. So you two need to leave as soon as possible. I was so shocked by Diana's words that I couldn't speak. A moocher and a senile old person, were they talking about me and Mom? What does she mean by telling us to leave? This is my parents' house. Take it back. Oh, Samantha, don't make that scary face. I haven't quit my job, and I'm not a moocher. Mom isn't a senile old person either. Everything I said is true. I can't lie, you know, ha. How can she laugh while saying such terrible things? I felt dizzy. It's impossible to take it back. I got a signature. Timothy pulled out a piece of paper that said he was in charge of the house and that no complaints could be made later. But there was definitely Mom's signature on it. They must have tricked her into signing it. This has no legal power. This is a blatant fraud. What? You made Mom sign it when she wasn't in her right mind? It's invalid. What are you talking about? You just said she wasn't a senile old person. At that moment, Mom, who had been napping, came over. Hello, everyone. What brings you here today? Mom greeted us with a smile, completely unaware. Rachel, this signature here, it's yours, right? You definitely wrote this, right? Timothy suddenly confronted Mom. Yes, that's my handwriting. Mom admitted it easily. This isn't fair. Now, pack up your things and get out. No way. If you stay any longer, I'll call the police for trespassing. This is ridiculous. Without fully understanding, we packed our valuables and personal belongings into a suitcase and were kicked out of the house. With a sneer, Timothy handed me a completed divorce application. File this. He looked at me with an expectant grin. Did he think I'd beg? I clenched my teeth, avoiding eye contact. As we stepped out of the house, I wanted to take something of Dad's, just one thing, so I grabbed the pair of leather shoes by the door. I remembered how Dad used to take great care of them. Men's shoes wouldn't be of much use, but having a keepsake was better than nothing. Mom and I got into the car and drove aimlessly. Anger towards Timothy and the in-laws, a sense of loss, and anxiety. We were overwhelmed with despair, wondering what we would do next. I couldn't stay positive. Tears welled up in my eyes. Then, Mom, who had been silent, murmured, "We're free now." Dad had died, and we had been kicked out of our home, yet Mom said the opposite of how I felt. Was she losing it? I felt a mix of anger and confusion, but before I could say anything, Mom started talking. We're lighter now. The unnecessary things have left us on their own. You don't have any regrets, do you? I do have regrets about the house, I said sulkily, and Mom laughed. That old, big house falling apart. What did they see in it? It's such a burden to maintain, but now it's their problem. We're lucky. Her positivity was too much. I wanted Dad to live much longer. What are you saying? It's better this way. I wouldn't want Dad to be sad. You just bought the furniture and appliances you liked, Mom. Don't you regret losing them? Getting new ones will be fun. Doesn't it make you mad when people call you a senile old person? Everyone goes through it. What do you mean? Mom remained calm, even though she had just lost everything. I was irritated and thought meanly, she'll forget everything I just said anyway. If you're with me, I am happy, Mom said. If you weren't here, I might have followed Dad. Mom. It's okay, it's okay. As she said that, Mom started to doze off again. She was like a child. Yes. What Mom forgets, I can remember for her. I'm not fully recovered, but I feel like I'll be okay as long as I'm with Mom. Shortly after, I received a call from Timothy. If you insist, I can forgive you. You can put Rachel in a facility. Huh? Forgive me? Did I do something wrong? It's obvious he just wants to use me as a housekeeper. I didn't want to talk anymore, so I just said, no, and hung up the phone. I felt more clear-headed than before. I didn't need Timothy after all. I explained the situation to my part-time employer and decided to become an independent hairstylist. I used part of my savings as a down payment to buy a used house in the neighboring town. The property had been a home-based salon. My part-time employer's owner arranged for me to get it at a very low price, low enough to make me feel sorry. Here, I could work while staying close to Mom. The owner also helped with tools and renovations for the salon. Samantha has always been helpful to me, she said. Her kindness touched my weary heart. I used up my savings for the opening preparations, but I had no regrets. Timothy had been against it, so I had given up until now, but owning my own salon had been a long-time dream. I didn't know if it would work out. My anger towards Timothy and the in-laws hadn't disappeared. But I could distract myself with the busyness, and the excitement of starting something new was greater. Now, I don't look back. I finally opened my dream salon. Mom helps with cleaning and laundry. When she's free, she enjoys gardening. Talking with the neighbors has become a daily routine for her. I'm grateful she's helping to advertise the salon too. I think she spends much less time zoning out. Just when we were getting into a rhythm with our new life together, Timothy contacted me. Why haven't you been in touch? Huh? I told you I would forgive you. Come back home. What are you talking about? Stop pretending you're not struggling, Timothy said with a sneer. I tilted my head. Struggling? Who? Where did he get that idea? I heard you opened a salon. There's no way an old hairstylist like you can succeed, especially with a senile old person to take care of. Poor Samantha. I've had loyal clients for years, and my salon is in a residential area, so many people come by while on a walk. I don't need his baseless assumptions. I'm earning much more than I did when I was working part-time. If you have nothing else to say, I'm hanging up. Wait a minute. What is it? Well, I want to return your dad's belongings, so can you come home? What? We had barely taken anything of Dad's. Mom said memories were enough, so I had given up, but if his things were still there, of course I wanted them. I left Mom with a nearby friend and headed back to my childhood home for the first time in a while. At that moment, I forgot what a jerk Timothy was and even felt grateful. The front yard of the house was an unusual sight. Disused cardboard boxes were piled up, and the mud stains and blown leaves were left as they were. I wondered if they hadn't cleaned up, and as I was looking at it, Timothy came out of the house. Hey, long time no see. I'm in a hurry. Can you hand it over quickly? It's inside the house, come on in. The house I hadn't visited in a while was so dirty that I hesitated to enter. It's a mess, isn't it? I'm at my wit's end. Mom can't clean up. My brother's wife used to do it all. He's muttering complaints, but why doesn't he clean up himself? He's as selfish as ever. But it doesn't matter to me. I have no lingering attachment to a house trampled by others. Apparently, Timothy has turned the once living room into his bedroom. There's a dirty mattress with candy wrappers and juice boxes scattered around, and it smells filthy. I hate even breathing in here. Disgusting. I muttered without thinking, and Timothy said, right? So come clean it up. Suddenly he said something incomprehensible. Damn it, if you had apologized sooner, it wouldn't have gotten this dirty. What? I'll pay you $10 per hour. Isn't it great to get paid just for cleaning? Timothy's face, laughing lightly, which I hate. I see, in his mind, I must be struggling for money. It seems like there's no point in denying it, so let's get this over with quickly. No. Just give me Dad's keepsakes. Well, it seems Mom accidentally threw them away. I knew it. I can't say I didn't think he might be lying, but I took a chance. And I was betrayed as expected. I'm disappointed. But this has made my decision. I have no more business with this house or Timothy. As I tried to leave, Timothy blocked my way. How annoying. Get out of my way. Wait, I get it, don't sulk. You can come back if it's just you. What? Damn it, stop wasting my time. You should have just been honest from the start. This is your last chance. I don't understand. What do you not like? If you need a housekeeper, find someone else. Hey, don't get cocky. What can a part-time woman do alone? I've been underestimated. Don't mess with me, have you forgotten? I was part-time because you didn't want me to earn more. Because I would earn more. I supported you so you could just work, and now you look down on me for being part-time. Move. What? I said, move, you underpaid loser. What? Ask your mom. She can clean. I slipped past the stunned Timothy and left the house. Ah, I feel refreshed. Seeing the transformed house, I lost all attachment. I'm disappointed that Dad's keepsakes are gone, but it's better than being dangled forever. Timothy's surprised face was priceless. Let's go home quickly, Mom is waiting. After a while, the owner of the hair salon where I used to work part-time introduced me to a new job. A mobile hairdressing service. It's a service that visits customers who need care and can't come to the salon. You register with the local government and visit customers nearby when requested. Sometimes it's a nursing home. There are even hairdressers who make this their main job. I have regular customers at my own shop, so if I take it, it would be once a week. But I have Mom, who I don't want to leave alone. Although she's been doing well lately, I don't want to go out much. It sounds interesting. Take me along as your assistant. Mom said to me as I was pondering. I realized that I had thought of an assistant as a young apprentice hairdresser. Yes, taking her out with me should work. The doctor at the hospital mentioned it too. Being socially active and living joyfully is the best prevention for dementia. Instead of worrying all the time, let's just try it. I decided to take on a few jobs a week. While I'm working at a client's place, Mom helps with tidying up or keeps the client's company. She's an excellent assistant. She moves around efficiently and notices things, just like she used to. She's no longer in a daze. One day, Timothy showed up at the shop. What are you doing here? It's expected that people can find your location if you run a business, but coming here just to harass me? How long do you plan to be a nuisance? I shielded Mom behind me and gripped my smartphone, ready to dial 911. I'd like to get a shampoo and cut. Don't mess with me. What do you want? The real estate agent sent a notice of eviction. What? You're the one who sold the land and house, right? I have no idea what he's talking about. What are you talking about? They thought it was an abandoned junk house, and a cleanup crew showed up. Don't mess with me. Oh, it was Mom. Mom sold the family home. Didn't she mention something about transferring the deed? No, that's not right. Mom only signed that scam-like document. Did she think that homemade paper settled everything? I knew she couldn't handle things, but this is beyond. I'm too shocked to speak. Give it back. It's my house. I don't know what you're talking about. Are you planning to make my aging parents homeless? You're the one who took my mom's house. What are you talking about? Fine. Then I'll just take this house. A private salon with a housekeeper, perfect. Timothy opens the door to the part of the house connected to the shop. Don't just walk in. Just as I was about to call. What? Timothy, who had been breathing heavily, suddenly quiets down. What's this? Pointing at Dad's leather shoes placed by the entrance. You already have a new man? Timothy says with a trembling voice. I had a sudden urge to polish them this morning and took them out of the box. Doesn't he realize they're Dad's? Of course not. Timothy didn't even notice when I cut my hair by nearly 8 inches. There's no way he'd remember someone else's shoes. You're cheating on me. While I'm still around. What? We're long divorced. Who is he? I won't forgive him. Timothy's face turns red with anger. Won't forgive? Who do you think you are? I smirked inwardly. This self-centered man deserves a little scare, right? Are you ready for it? What? Are you prepared to face him? As you can see from the looks of those fancy shoes, if you're not fully ready, you might get hurt. I stared intently at Timothy's face. Sweat formed on his forehead, his eyes darting, unable to hide his unease. Timothy, who's all pride and no guts, couldn't possibly be ready. Why are you silent? Should I call him then? What? Call who? Is he here? Darling, come here for a moment. Sorry to bother you. Timothy dashed out like the wind. Mom covers her mouth with both hands, trying to stifle her laughter. Haha, did you see how fast he ran away? I feel relieved and my body relaxes. Mom can't stop laughing. Haha, hey, who did you call? You're quite the actor. I can't help but laugh along. Timothy will never come back here again. Thank you, Dad, for your help. Selling the house was, of course, something Mom had arranged. There's no way I would let him change the ownership. You knew everything? Of course. Just signing a name on that paper doesn't mean anything. I planned to do this from the beginning, but I was keeping it on hold because I thought I might not be able to complete the paperwork when I'm forgetful. Mom says this calmly. I was surprised, wondering if she was aware of her own forgetfulness. Recently, my mind feels so clear. Like the fog has lifted. So, I must be getting better. Maybe I forget things, but that's always been the case. But to let go of the cherished family home so easily. Oh, it was Dad who suggested selling the house. He thought that once you two moved out, we'd sell it and move into a more convenient apartment near the bus terminal. Really? Life doesn't go as planned, does it? Don't you agree? Indeed. Now that I think about it, Mom's dementia symptoms started when she became more housebound. She's always been an active person, so being involved with people, keeping her mind and body engaged, suits her better. We need her to stay healthy for a long time. I need to earn a little pocket money as an assistant. She says things like that, so she should be okay for a while. By the way, Timothy and his in-laws tried to return to their old home but were rejected by his brother and sister-in-law. Dirty Diana, who can't clean and has a nasty personality, and the unkempt and arrogant Timothy are certainly not welcome. Incidentally, that house has already been transferred to Timothy's brother's name, so they can't do anything about it. Timothy and his in-laws started blaming each other, and their relationship has soured. Timothy was told, "It's your fault we have nowhere to live, take responsibility." He ended up taking out a risky loan to buy a second-hand house, which I think is reckless given what I know about his savings and income. They'll have to live frugally to make repayments. Their new place quickly turned into a garbage house. Shortly after moving, they piled trash bags on the road in front of their house, angering the stern neighborhood leader, and their neighbors are disgusted. Please, keep your place clean. Frankly, it's none of my business, but I wish they wouldn't trouble others. You know what? The in-laws are still healthy, so they should work to help their low-paid son. If they don't want to get scolded, they should clean up. It might even help prevent dementia. Risa, while you were away, I moved my parents' stuff into our house. What? What do you mean by that? While I was on a trip, my husband Polly had moved his parents' moving boxes into our house without asking. And on top of that, I received unbelievable treatment from Polly. You should not come back anymore. Polly doesn't want me to come back home anymore. Even though this house is where our family has always lived, Polly wants to kick me out and live with his parents. However, I had anticipated being kicked out by Polly and easily retorted, "Okay, I'll move out on my own." I sought advice from my dad, Mike, and took a certain action. First, I sent an email to someone and made a plan. I returned to America with Mike. And then, I came back to our house. I started to execute the plan as intended. Polly, who had been naively thinking he could live with his parents, was surprised by the unexpected turn of events. Actually, the plan I had made with Mike was: my name is Risa. I am a 45-year-old dietitian working in a hospital. Originally, I was supposed to follow in Mike's footsteps, but inheriting my mom's love for cooking, I became a dietitian. However, my beloved mom passed away before I graduated from college. After that, Mike started working in France, so we sold the house I was born and raised in, and I started living alone in an apartment. Being plain-looking since childhood, I've always been inconspicuous wherever I go. Moreover, attending girls' schools from middle school to university, I had no encounters with men, and I had never had a boyfriend. However, I was fortunate to meet good people wherever I went, and after graduating from college, I got married. At that friend's wedding, I met my current husband, Polly, who was 3 years older than me and a friend of the groom. He seemed like the type who would be popular with the ladies. Luckily, or perhaps coincidentally, he had just broken up with his girlfriend. His ex-girlfriend was a nurse, and it seems they broke up due to misaligned schedules and night shifts. When I mentioned that I was a dietitian with early mornings and few holidays, he was very pleased. However, at that time, I was busy studying for the national exam for registered dietitians, so I was busy on weekends. Even so, he was kind enough to send me messages, saying, "I miss not being able to see you, but good luck with your studies." Feeling a sense of destiny with him, I thought I'd like to marry him if I passed. And on the day of the exam results, he invited me out to celebrate my passing that night. Congratulations on passing! This is how I feel, would you accept it? What he handed me was an engagement ring. He proposed to me right then and there. Overjoyed as if my passing was his own, I tearfully said yes right away. And so, our married life began. At first, we thought about living in an apartment, but with Mike's help, we bought our own home. I was looking forward to a happy life from now on, but after getting married, I started to feel a sense of discomfort around Polly. Thinking it was because I had no experience with men, I assumed it would be okay once I got used to it. However, one day, when Polly was looking at my pay stub, he made a comment that made me do a double take. "What's this?" I thought dietitians, being professionals, would earn more. I'm disappointed. What? Well, I just started working, and we're both working, so an income of around $200,000 should be fine, right? I retorted, feeling somewhat offended. It's not like I got married to be supported by my husband, but being told my salary was low didn't feel good. Yet, Polly went on to insult my earnings further. I've been totally deceived. If I knew the income was this low, I would have asked before getting married. A nurse would have earned more. Polly must have been talking about his ex-girlfriend. It's one thing to complain about my earnings, but comparing me to his ex-girlfriend is unforgivable. Indeed, nurses receive night shift allowances and holiday pay. In comparison, my salary is lower because I have fewer early mornings and holiday shifts. However, I have my own side of the story to tell. I happened to see Polly's pay stub the other day, and it turns out he earns even less than I do. Yet, I thought we wouldn't struggle with our combined incomes, so I didn't say anything. I tried to gently break it to Polly, not wanting to hurt his pride. Well, it seems like you have it tough too, so I guess you were hoping for a bit more from my salary. Sorry for not meeting your expectations. That's right. I work for a small company, and my salary is really low, so I wanted to marry a professional woman to achieve financial stability. I only meant to cheer him up with what I didn't even believe myself, but I never thought Polly would take it seriously. Before we got married, he was happy that my work hours were regular, but after we got married, he complained about my low income as if he had changed his stance. What kind of world does a man live in where he expects his wife's income to be higher than his? I was just dumbfounded by Polly's unreliable behavior. As soon as he knew about my income, Polly started looking down on me. Yet, he wouldn't hesitate to buy whatever he wanted without restraint. Even when I asked him to be a bit more frugal, he wouldn't listen at all. I've been spoiled by my parents since I was a kid, buying me whatever I wanted, so I can't change my attitude towards money that easily. I couldn't say anything back to such a spoiled statement from Polly. It's no excuse to say that he was spoiled by his parents when he was a child at his age. The following year after we got married, we were blessed with a boy. I hoped that becoming a parent would change Polly, but his habit of spending recklessly didn't improve, even during childcare. It was always the same with him spending his entire salary. If it wasn't enough, he'd sneak money from my wallet without me noticing. While I was struggling to manage work and budgeting while raising our son, Cedric, Polly hardly contributed to childcare. As time passed, struggling through these tough days, Cedric is now preparing for his college entrance exams this year. Thanks to my careful budgeting, it looks like we can afford to send him to college. Cedric, understanding our financial situation, has been studying hard to enter a national university. Yet, Polly came up with a ridiculous idea. Because I bought a new car last year, the loan repayments are tough. Plus, there's Cedric's exams, right? So, I've decided to sell my parents' house and have them move in with us. Wait, what are you saying? Suddenly living together like that, it's going to be a problem. Why? Risa, you get along with my parents, right? If we live together, we'll get their pension and become wealthier. Indeed, I don't hate the idea of living with my in-laws. It's just that I didn't like Polly's way of making decisions on his own. In terms of finances, we've been managing wealth so far, so there shouldn't be a problem as long as we don't indulge in luxuries. Why do you always decide everything selfishly? Even the new car, you bought it without consulting me. That's my car, so I don't need to consult you every time. Seeing Polly's selfish behavior, this time, Cedric got furious. Dad, enough is enough. When I go to college, I might come home late from part-time jobs or clubs. If grandparents Arnold and Rothy are living with us, it's going to be awkward, right? Why don't you discuss these things properly with Mom? Cedric, coming out of his room all of a sudden and raising his voice, left Polly wide-eyed in surprise. But the next moment, Polly turned to me, lashing out as if he was taking it out on me. Cedric talking back to me, his dad, like that is because of your poor parenting. Reflect on it. Saying that, Polly locked himself in his room and didn't come out for a while. I was happy that Cedric stood up for me. However, I was worried that the current home environment would affect his exam preparations. Despite my worries, Cedric successfully passed his first-choice national university. But tired of living with Polly, Cedric decided to move out and start living on his own. He said he wants to try his best on his own without relying on his parents, even if it means working part-time. Even so, Polly continues to ignore both me and Cedric. Ever since it's been just Polly and me at home, we don't even talk though we're in the same house. It feels suffocating. During these days, feeling mentally drained, I called my dad Mike in France to seek advice. Mike, worried about me, suggested I come to France for a while. I thought I couldn't take a long break because of my job, but it seems my colleagues were worried about my pale complexion recently. After explaining the situation, I was allowed to take some time off. However, I wanted to keep my consultation with Mike a secret from Polly. So, I told him I was invited on a trip by a friend. I hoped that if I was away for a while, Polly might cool down a bit. But heading to Mike's, an entirely unexpected situation unfolded. Starting with a call from Polly while I was in France. Risa, I've moved my parents' stuff into our house while you were away. What? What do you mean? What do you mean, what? I've been saying, haven't I? That I'd live with my parents. More than that, Dad and Mom are angry with you. They said a wife who spoils their son like you is the worst. No way. I couldn't believe what Polly was saying. My in-laws shouldn't be the type to speak ill of me like that. So, I've decided we'll live with my parents and me from now on. If you were here, it'd inconvenience my parents. After all, you're the strict wife who makes their son speak ill of them. Polly must have badmouthed me to my in-laws. Maybe the part about them being angry with me was also a fabrication. Angry, I thought about shouting something back. But, to stay calm, I just said, "I'll call you back later," and hung up. Luckily, Mike was home, so I immediately shared the phone call's content with him. Mike, looking disgruntled, shook his head. Polly, really? Relying on his parents at his age. That's what I'm saying. I don't understand why I have to be the one kicked out. After a long discussion, Mike came up with a suggestion that excited me. I thought this would teach Polly a lesson. First, I contacted someone by email, then called Polly's mobile phone. Polly, talking over the phone won't cut it, so let's discuss this when I get back from my trip. I said this calmly, but Polly, with a laugh in his voice, replied, "You shouldn't come back." Just as Mike advised, Polly didn't want me to return home. Expecting this, I retorted easily, "Okay, got it. I'll just move out on my own." Huh? Polly sounded taken aback by my unexpected response. But thinking I was just bluffing, he laughed and replied, "Move out? Where to, when you have nowhere to go?" "Oh, to the place I'm currently at." "What are you talking about? You're on a trip with friends." "Wait, you're not with a man, are you?" Now he seemed to misunderstand that I was with a lover, so I decided to reveal the truth. "Well, if it's a man, it's indeed a man. But, you know, it's Dad." Mike's place." Polly sounded relieved. But he'd be surprised by the next part of the conversation. "Dad's living in a mansion in France now, so I've decided to live here too. That's why we're going to sell the house we've been living in." "What? What do you mean?" "Well, you should know, right? That house is in Dad's name, built for us. If I'm not living there, it's to be sold." "What? But Dad and Mom are here right now." What are you going to do? That's what I said. It's no use talking over the phone. Polly, finally grasping the situation, hung up without saying anything else. He can't possibly imagine the further tragedy waiting for him upon my return to America. A week later, I returned home with Mike, where Polly was living with my in-laws. At the entrance, my in-laws greeted us with smiles. Mike, it's been a long time. Yes, I can't often return to America due to work. Risa has always been under your care. While Mike and my father-in-law Arnold were exchanging greetings, Polly quietly emerged. It seemed he hadn't yet informed them about the house sale. Looking awkward, Polly just bowed his head. Polly, the movers are coming today to pick up the stuff. Have you prepared everything? All your stuff is already packed. Oh, it's not just my things that are being moved out. Huh? Do I have to move my things out today, too? Polly's surprised shout caught Arnold's attention. What's going on, Polly? Why are your things being moved out? Polly, looking guilty, hesitantly explained the situation. Arnold became furious and started yelling at Polly. You said this house was bought under your name with a loan so we could live together. Making your parents ashamed, unforgivable. Arnold's thunderous voice left Polly speechless. Then, the moving truck arrived. After my things were moved out, my mother-in-law Rothy came out to direct the movers. Thank you for your hard work. Our stuff is prepared here, please take it. Rothy had neatly prepared all the household items, including Polly's. Seeing this, Polly was dumbfounded. Mom? What's happening? Why are you packing Dad's stuff too? Where are you planning to take it? Watching Polly panic and question Rothy, we all burst into laughter. You've been completely fooled. What? What's going on? Why is everyone laughing all of a sudden? Indeed, this was all a plan to trick Polly, discussed in advance by everyone here. The first person I contacted by email from France was Rothy. Rothy had been worried about my tired appearance for some time. After repeatedly asking why, I ended up telling Rothy everything about Polly. Rothy was shocked, especially at the part where Polly blamed his extravagant habits on his parents spoiling him. Rothy tearfully apologized for her parenting in front of me, which made me feel guilty. But Polly's wasteful spending wasn't Rothy's fault. As I comforted Rothy, our bond deepened. For me, without a mom, Rothy became someone I could consult about anything. Mike was aware of my close relationship with Rothy. Thus, he suggested involving the in-laws in our plan. Rothy, without letting Polly know, had been looking for a new place for them to live with Arnold. Arnold's scolding of Polly was all an act. I nearly burst out laughing at their convincing performance. Rothy, thank you for arranging the movers for me as well. Now, I can move to the house Dad built in France. I'm sorry, Risa. My son has caused you so much trouble. Rothy, we agreed not to say that, didn't we? Rothy and I laughed together. Polly, unaware of how close I was with his parents, looked surprised. Mom, where are we moving to? We've already sold our family home. We've already arranged a new place for us. Polly seemed relieved at Rothy's words. But that relief would soon be short-lived. So, it was like that. I worried for nothing. Then I'll just go there too, right? What are you talking about? That's a senior living apartment for Arnold to live in with someone else. Polly, you're not a child anymore. Find your own place to live. As soon as Rothy said this, Polly's face turned pale. That's impossible. I don't even have the money for moving, let alone find a new place. Indeed, Polly had squandered his salary on hobbies and entertainment, leaving him with no savings. No matter how he struggled now, it was his own responsibility. Desperate, Polly looked at me with pleading eyes. I could guess what he was about to say. By the way, Mike built quite a big house in France, right? I had no idea you were such a well-off lady. Listen, I'll do anything you say from now on, so could you take me with you to that house? Suddenly speaking in a sweet tone, he was indeed trying to rely on me. I had no intention of indulging such naive thoughts and firmly stated my position. I've been fooled by your kind words on occasion, but I can't forgive you anymore. You've barely contributed to our living expenses and have just been playing around. I don't want to be your wife anymore. I've already discussed this with Cedric on the phone yesterday, and we've decided to get a divorce. Cedric agrees it's for the best. I vented the feelings I had been holding back, feeling a sense of relief. My in-laws seemed to agree, nodding deeply. What am I supposed to do now? Polly cried, tears in his eyes, but my decision was firm. I presented him with the divorce papers and demanded his signature. Yet, Polly stubbornly refused to sign. Seeing this, Arnold showed his anger again. Polly, enough is enough. After all the trouble you've caused Risa, now you're thinking of relying on her parents' home. I'm ashamed to call you my son. That's right. I admit, I've spoiled you too much. But Polly, you're an adult now. Stop being so selfish and start living on your own. Convinced by his parents' earnest persuasion, Polly shed tears. What? Even Dad and Mom? Do I have no allies here? Muttering so, Polly signed the divorce papers. He then arranged to store his belongings in a storage unit and left the house alone. Betrayed by the parents he thought were on his side, he was visibly shocked. However, the in-laws had decided to cut ties with Polly. Not just them. I also promised never to let Polly see Cedric again. This was a strong request from Cedric. He had always resented Polly for never acting like a father. With the divorce as an opportunity, Cedric wanted to sever ties with Polly. I thought it was for the best for Cedric. Rejected by his parents and disowned by his son, Polly must have lost the will to live. Having lost everything, Polly spent some time living in monthly rental hotels and internet cafes. But once he received his salary, he managed to move into an apartment where he could live alone. During the divorce, I gave Polly a small amount of money as part of our shared assets. It was practically nothing, but I wanted to avoid any future claims for money, given my financial situation. In essence, it was severance pay. However, once Polly had a bit of financial leeway, he started getting into partying. Why do I know this? Because Polly contacted me, saying, "I'll find a woman with a good income and make you regret leaving me." Initially, after becoming alone, Polly would contact me just to express his loneliness. But once he had money, his attitude became arrogant again. After some time, the communications from Polly suddenly stopped. I wondered if he had found a new girlfriend, but it turned out the situation was far more serious. According to the former in-laws, Polly had fallen for a nurse he met at a party. Despite not being reciprocated, Polly persistently pursued her. At worst, he even showed up at her apartment. As a result of his relentless stalking, he was reported and arrested in the act. The former in-laws, having intended to sever parental ties, were troubled by their son's scandal, feeling deeply sorry for them. Being a parent is tough. No matter how much you try to distance yourself, you're still responsible when something happens. Despite causing so much trouble for his parents, Polly seemed unrepentant. During the interrogation, "It was true love," he kept insisting. This led to a judgment that he was not remorseful, and his release was delayed. Such a man is better off cooling his head in prison for a while. After all, a penniless man in his 50s chasing such ideals will only cause annoyance. Now, I live elegantly in a mansion in France with Mike. Still not accustomed to the environment and not fluent in French, I'm not working yet. However, I can't stay unemployed forever, so I'm attending French lessons. Once I'm proficient in the language, I plan to help out with Mike's company. As time passed, Cedric graduated from university. He then moved here to work at Mike's company. In fact, Mike had called him over with the intention of making Cedric his successor. It was lonely being apart from Cedric for 4 years, but now we can live together forever. This thought fills me with joy. Now that I've become quite fluent in French, I assist with Mike's company and work as a cooking class instructor locally. Though my marriage failed, my life in France is very fulfilling. Despite being in my mid-40s, this is an ideal environment to enjoy life. I've decided to forget my past self, who worried about being plain and unpopular, and live positively. After all, there's still so much more to come. Surely, Mom in heaven is watching over me.